Every time someone visits a page on your site, a quick exchange happens behind the scenes between their browser and your server. The browser asks for a page, and before it fulfills the request, the server responds with a status code first. That code tells the browser and search engines whether the request was successful, failed, or redirected to another location. Most of the time, this exchange happens smoothly and no one even notices it's happening. But when something goes wrong, or when an SEO audit flags a long list of errors, understanding these codes is what separates a measured response from an unnecessary panic. Though you may see them all the time, you may not know what they actually mean. My name is Madeline, and I'm going to walk you through what each response code means and how to know when they're working correctly, so you'll know if there's something to fix, so you can keep the experience of using your site efficient and painless. HTTP status codes are 3-digit standardized codes categorized by their first number, which makes them easier to understand so you can recognize them quickly. Codes that begin with the number 2 indicate that the request was successful. This is where you want most of your pages to land. Codes that start with the number 3 indicate that the content is somewhere else and the server is pointing that way. Codes beginning in the number 4 mean that something about the request was wrong, usually a broken or outdated link. Finally, codes starting with a 5 mean that something went wrong on your server's end that requires attention. Now we'll break down the status codes that you'll interact with most often. A 200 response code means everything is working. The browser asked for a page, the server found it, and the content was delivered. To a search engine crawler, a 200 says, index this page and keep it. A 200 isn't always the most desirable response, however. If your server returns a 200 for pages that no longer exist, old products, discontinued categories, expired promotions, those pages stay in Google's index and can even outrank your active pages. A 301 tells the browser and search engines that a page has been permanently moved to a new location. When this happens, the server redirects the request to the new URL and passes up the ranking signals from the old page. A 301 can be used when you've updated a URL, consolidated content, or moved a page to a new location for good. It can also be used when you want to make sure visitors hitting the non-www version of your domain land on the www version, or vice versa. You shouldn't use a 301 when a page still exists and should be indexed, or when redirecting to a page that has nothing to do with the original. Misused redirects are a common spam signal that search engines watch for. A 302 means the content is somewhere else right now, but come back and check the original URL later. Unlike a 301, a 302 tells search engines to hold on to the original URL in their index. Use a 302 for temporary situations like when a page is under revision, or you're running a seasonal promotion and redirecting to a placeholder, or during A/B testing. Where retailers get into trouble is using a 302 when they should be using a 301. The result being the old, dead URL staying in Google's index indefinitely when it should just be removed. A 304 status code is less common, but still worth learning about just in case. A 304 tells the browser that the page hasn't changed since the last time it was loaded, so it can use the cached version instead of downloading everything again. This is normal and intentional because it speeds up load times for returning visitors. A 403 means the server understood the request but refused to fulfill it. This is the correct response when a search engine crawler tries to access your admin pages or other restricted areas of your site. It becomes a problem when pages you want visitors or crawlers to access returns to a 403. This can happen with overly aggressive robots.txt files or misconfigured server permissions. A 404 means the server can't find what was requested, and in most cases, that's the right response. Pages get removed, products get discontinued, URLs change, and when that happens, a 404 correctly tells the browser and search engines this doesn't exist. SEO audits flag 404s as errors by default, and that often causes site owners to panic and start redirecting everything, which isn't always the correct reaction. Redirecting a 404 to an irrelevant page, like sending every broken link to the homepage, for example, doesn't help users find what they were looking for, and it creates a different kind of problem for search engines trying to understand the structure of your site. 404s that show up in your own internal links are worth fixing, like if your site is linking to pages that don't exist. External links you don't control pointing to dead pages are generally not worth stressing over. And if a page is truly gone for good, maybe consider a 410 instead. A 410 is a more definitive version of a 404. A 404 says, I can't find this, while a 410 says, this used to exist, but now it's gone. Search engine crawlers treat a 410 as final and remove the URL from their index faster than they would a 404. Use a 410 when you've intentionally removed content like a discontinued product line, a retired landing page, or if you want search engines to stop crawling a page right away. Because 410s are more absolute, many developers choose to return a 404 for everything that's missing and reserve 410s for situations where speed of de-indexing matters. A 503 means your server is temporarily unable to handle requests, usually because it's overloaded or undergoing maintenance. Unlike the 400 codes, a 503 is always a server-side issue that needs to be resolved. 500 codes should always indicate a high-priority issue that needs to be fixed. You can't do anything useful for users if your server isn't responding. The key takeaway is server response codes are your server trying to communicate about what's happening. Understanding what these codes mean and when they're working as intended puts you in a much better position to make decisions based on what's actually happening on your site rather than what an automated report thinks is a problem. For more on how your e-commerce site's technical foundation affects visibility, contact the Virid team today.